Hey, Cub fans. Thanks for joining us here on Cubs 24/7, where Randy talks Cubs. We're going to do a podcast style today. I want to do a nice full profile on one of my favorite all-time players, and that's Greg Maddux. So there's so much to talk about. There's so much that we need to cover. I just decided to do it in podcast style, so you guys won't have to worry about looking at me. You can we'll do it in a way where I give the information at a pace where you can absorb it in a relaxed manner. I'm thinking maybe a road trip or something. You might want to listen to this. So, Gregory Allen Maddux, born April 14th, 1966, also known as Mad Dog. Another nickname is the Professor. Pitched for the Cubs and the Braves over 23 seasons. Won the 1995 World Series with the Braves. He was the first pitcher in Major League history to win the Cy Young Award 4 consecutive years. He did that in 92, 93, 94, and 95. Randy Johnson is the only other pitcher to have achieved that. During those 4 seasons, Greg went 75-29 with a sub-2 ERA, 1.98. He's the only pitcher in Major League history to win at least 15 games for 17 straight seasons. He also holds the record for most Gold Gloves by any player with 18. He has the most putouts by a pitcher with 546, including a live ball era record of 39 putouts in a season. He did that 3 times in 90, 91, and 93. A control pitcher, Maddux won more games during the 90s than any other pitcher, and he's 8th on the all-time career wins list with 355 wins. Maddux also has the most wins among pitchers who made their debuts after World War II. He is one of only 10 pitchers to ever achieve both 300 wins and 3,000 strikeouts. He's the only pitcher to record more than 300 wins, more than 3,000 strikeouts, and has fewer than 1,000 walks. Greg has exactly 999 walks. He may have done that on purpose. Since his retirement as a player, Greg has served as special assistant to the general manager for both the Cubs and Texas Rangers. On January 8th of 2014, he was voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. He received 97.2% of the votes. In 2012, a writer named Jason Lukart coined the term Maddux to describe when a pitcher throws a complete game shutout in fewer than 100 pitches. Greg holds the record for the most times accomplishing a Maddux, a feat that he achieved 13 times. Greg was born in San Angelo, Texas, and spent much of his childhood in Madrid, Spain. His dad was stationed over there with the United States Air Force, and his dad exposed him to baseball at an early age. Upon their return to Las Vegas, Greg and his brother Mike, who became a professional player himself, trained under the supervision of Ralph Metter. Ralph was a former scout in the major leagues, and Metter preached the value of movement and location above velocity. And he advised throwing a softer pitch when in a jam instead of throwing harder. Greg would later say that, "I believed it. I don't know why. I just did." Metter died before Greg graduated from Valley High School in Las Vegas in 1984, but he instilled a firm foundation that would anchor Greg's future career. At Valley High School, he was teammates on the school's baseball team with future Major League pitcher Steve Chitrin, and helped lead the school to a state championship as a junior in 1983. While in Vegas, he played American Legion baseball with Post 8. He was named the organization's Graduate of the Year in 1984. His brother Mike was drafted in 1982. When scouts went to observe the elder Maddux, their father Dave told them, "You'll be back later to look at the little one." Some baseball scouts were unimpressed by Maddux's skinny build, but the Cubs scout Doug Mapson saw past the physique. Mapson wrote a glowing review that read in part, "I really believe this boy would be the #1 player in the country if only he looked a bit more physical." The Cubs drafted Greg in the second round of the 1984 Major League Draft, and he chose to sign in lieu of honoring a previous commitment that he had made to play baseball at the University of Arizona. He made his Major League debut on September 3rd, 1986, the conclusion of the September 2nd game, which had been postponed due to darkness. Lights weren't installed at Wrigley Field until 1988. At the time, Greg was the youngest player in the major leagues. His first appearance in the major league game was as a pinch runner. He came in to run for Jody Davis in the 7th inning. No, it was the 17th inning against the Houston Astros. Greg then pitched the 18th inning, allowing a home run to Billy Hatcher and taking the loss. His first major league start 5 days later, he threw a complete game, got the win. In his 5th and final start of 1986, Greg defeated Mike, who was pitching for the Philadelphia Phillies. That marked the first time rookie brothers had pitched against each other. Mike Maddux was well used to his younger brother's competitive spirit, saying of their youth, if Greg couldn't win, he didn't want to play, plain and simple. In 1987, in his first full season in the major leagues, Maddux struggled to a 6-14 record and a 5.61 ERA. But he flourished in 1988, finishing 18-8 with a 3.18 ERA. This began a streak of 17 straight seasons in which Greg recorded 15 or more wins, the longest such streak in Major League history. Greg established himself as the Cubs' ace in 1989, winning 19 games, including a September game at Montreal's Olympic Stadium that clinched the Cubs' second-ever National League Eastern Division Championship. Manager Don Zimmer tabbed him to start Game 1 of the National League Championship Series against the Giants. He allowed 8 runs and was relieved after surrendering Will Clark's grand slam with 2 outs in the 4th. Maddux believed that just before the grand slam, he had had a conversation with Zimmer and Clark watched. He believes that Clark read his lips. Greg had said fastball high inside. So Clark knew what pitch to expect. After that incident, Maddux always covered his mouth with his glove during conversations on the mound. Maddux took a no decision in Game 4. The Cubs ended up losing the National League Championship Series 4-1. After consecutive 15-win seasons in 1990 and 1991, Maddux won 20 games in 1992, tied for the National League lead, and was voted his first Cy Young Award. Free agency was pending for Maddux, and the contract talks between the Cubs and Greg became contentious and eventually ceased. Both the Chicago Cubs general manager Larry Himes and Greg Maddux's agent Scott Boras had accused each other of failing to negotiate in good faith. The rift had become pretty severe. The Cubs eventually decided to pursue other free agents. After 7 seasons in Chicago, Maddux signed a 5-year, $28 million deal with the Atlanta Braves. Maddux made his debut with the Braves on April 5, 1993. He was their opening day starter against the Cubs at Wrigley Field. He beat his former teammates 1-0. He finished the regular season with a 20-10 record, led the National League with a 2.36 ERA, and won his second straight Cy Young Award. The Braves took their rotation of Maddux, a 22-game winner, and Tom Glavine, an 18-game winner, with Steve Avery, a 15-game winner, and John Smoltz to the postseason. Maddux won against the Philadelphia Phillies in Game 2 of the NLCS, but with Atlanta trailing 3-2, lost the decisive Game 6. During the strike-shortened 1994 season, Maddux posted an ERA of 1.56, the second lowest since Bob Gibson's historic 1.12 in 1968. The last year of the elevated mound, and the lowest in the majors since Dwight Gooden's 1.53 in 1985. It pleased Maddux that his 1994 batting average, which was .222, was higher than his ERA. Maddux also led the National League in wins, had 16 innings pitched with .202 in his third Cy Young Award-winning year. Maddux also finished fifth in the National League's Most Valuable Player voting in 1994. In the 1995 season, Greg went 19-2. He posted the third lowest ERA since Gibson's, 1.63. Greg became the first pitcher to post back-to-back ERAs under 1.8 since Walter Johnson did it in 1918. Maddux's 1.63 ERA came in a year when the overall league ERA was 4.23. Since the beginning of the live ball era in 1920, there have only been 5 pitchers to have full season ERAs under 1.65. Gibson and Luis Tiant in the 1968 season, Gooden in 1985, and then Maddux twice. Maddux's 19 wins led the National League for the third time in 4 seasons. On May 28, 1995, Greg beat the Astros, losing a no-hitter on an 8th-inning home run to Jeff Bagwell. It was the only 9-inning one-hitter of his career. In June and July, Greg threw 51 consecutive innings without issuing a walk. Greg pitched effectively in all 3 of the Braves' postseason series, winning a game in each. His Game 1 victory in the 1995 World Series involved 9 innings, 2 hits, no walks, no earned runs, with Orel Hershiser pitching for the Cleveland Indians. Maddux took the loss in Game 5, but the Braves won their first World Series championship 2 days later. Following the 1995 season, Maddux won his 4th Cy Young Award, a Major League record, and his 2nd consecutive unanimous award. Maddux also finished 3rd in that year's National League Most Valuable Player voting. The Braves also made good on a preseason promise to their pitching rotation, installing and putting Green in the locker room on the newly built Turner Field following the World Series victory. From 1996 to 1998, Maddux finished 5th, 2nd, and 4th in the Cy Young voting. In August 1997, Maddux signed a $57.5 million 5-year contract extension that made him the highest paid player in baseball. In February of 2003, he avoided arbitration by signing a 1-year $14.75 million contract. Maddux's production remained consistent, a 19-4 record in 97, went 18-9 in 98, 19-9 in both 99 and 2000, 17-11 in 01, 16-6 in 02, and 16-11 in 03, his last season as a Brave. From 1993 to 1998, Greg Maddux led the National League in ERA 4 times and was second twice in that era. On July 22, 1997, Maddux threw a complete game with just 76 pitches, 36 strikes, 20 batted balls, 13 balls, 5 hits, and 4 fouls. He did that against the Cubs. 3 weeks earlier, he had shut out the defending champion New York Yankees on 84 pitches. On 5 days before that, he had beaten the Phillies with a 90-pitch complete game. Maddux allowed just 20 bases on balls in 1997, including 6 intentional walks. Maddux struck out 20-plus batters for the only time in his career in 1998. He outdueled Cubs' Kerry Wood to clinch the NLDS, but the Braves were eliminated in the next round. The Braves returned to the World Series in 1999. Maddux was the Game 1 starter, and it took a 1-0 lead into the 8th inning before the Yankee rally cost him the game and eventually the series as the Braves were swept. On June 14th of 2000, Greg made his 387th putout to break Jack Morris's career record. In September of 2000, he had a streak of 40 1/3 scoreless innings. He pitched poorly in one playoff start of 2000. In May 2001, Greg became the first Braves pitcher since 1916 to throw two 1-0 shutouts in the same month. The first included a career-best 14 strikeouts. In July and August of that year, Greg pitched 72 1/3 consecutive innings without giving up a walk. That streak ended when he intentionally threw 4 balls to Steve Finley. In 2002, he won his 13th straight Gold Glove Award, which is a National League record. Maddux tied Jim Cott's career record of 16 Gold Gloves after the 2006 season. Throughout most of his years with the Braves, in the tradition of other pitching greats such as Steve Carlton, Maddux often had his own personal catcher. At various times, Maddux used Charlie O'Brien, Eddie Perez, Paul Bacco, and Henry Blanco for a majority of his starts, though regular starter Javi Lopez did sometimes catch Maddux in the postseason. Maddux was the crown jewel in the much-vaunted Braves trio of Maddux, Glavine, and Smoltz, who pitched together for over a decade as the core of one of the best pitching staffs in the history of the game. The three were the linchpin of a team that won its division every year that Maddux was on the team. The three pitchers were frequently augmented by other strong starters such as Steve Avery, Kevin Millwood, Denny Nagel, Russ Ortiz. In 1995, they pitched the Braves to a World Series title. In 29 postseason games with Atlanta, Maddux had a 2.81 ERA and a 1.19 whip, but just an 11-13 record. Greg returned to the Cubs as a free agent prior to the 2004 season when he signed with them on February 18th of 2004. He got his first win on April 23rd after losing 3 consecutive games at the beginning of the season. On August 7th, Maddux defeated the Giants 8-4 to garner his 300th career win. In April of 2005, he beat Roger Clemens for his 306th win in the first National League matchup between 300-game winners in 113 years. On July 26, 2005, after a 3-hour rain delay, Greg struck out Omar Vizquel to become the 13th member of the 3,000 strikeout club, and only the 9th pitcher with both 300 wins and 3,000 strikeouts. Having reached both marks against the Giants, Greg finished as one of the 4 pitchers to top the 3,000 strikeout list with fewer than 1,000 walks. The other 3 pitchers who accomplished that feat are Ferguson Arthur Jenkins Jr., Curt Schilling, and Pedro Martinez. Greg's 13-15 record in 2005 was his first losing season since 1987, and it snapped a string of 17 consecutive seasons with 15 or more wins. Both Young and Maddux reached 13-plus wins for 19 consecutive seasons. This is even more impressive considering that Cy Young pitched in an era with no more than 4 regular starters that would average more than 40-plus games per season, whereas Maddux pitched in an era with a 5-man rotation when reaching 40 starts in a season was virtually unheard of. Greg's second stint with the Cubs lasted until mid-2006 when he was traded for the first time in his career. He was traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers. At the time, the Dodgers were in need of some help. They were in a thick playoff race. In the first start with the Dodgers, Greg threw 6 no-hit innings before a rain delay interrupted his debut. In his next start, he needed just 68 pitches to throw at 8 shutout innings. On August 30th of 2006, he won his 330th game, passing Steve Carlton to take sole possession of 10th on the all-time list. On September 30th of 2006, Greg pitched 7 innings in San Francisco, allowing 2 runs and 3 hits in a 4-2 win over the Giants, clinching a postseason spot for the Dodgers and notching another 15-win season. It was Greg's 18th season among his league's top 10 for wins, breaking a record he'd shared with Cy Young and Warren Spahn, who did it 17 times apiece. The Dodgers were swept in the first round of the playoffs by the Mets. Greg started the third and final game, throwing an ineffective no decision. Greg was honored with a Fielding Bible Award as the best fielding pitcher in Major League Baseball for 2006. On December 5th of 2006, Greg agreed to a one-year $10 million deal with the San Diego Padres with a player option for the 2008 season, an option that Maddux later exercised at a reported $10 million. Greg earned his 338th win in a game that Trevor Hoffman earned his milestone 500 save. On August 24, 2007, he won his 343rd game to take sole possession of 9th place on the all-time win list. He achieved another milestone with the same win, becoming the only pitcher in Major League to have 20 consecutive seasons with at least 10 wins and placing him second on the list for most 10-win seasons, tied with Nolan Ryan and behind Don Sutton, who has 21. Also in 2007, Greg reached 13 wins for the 20th consecutive season, passing Cy Young for that Major League record. He finished the season with a career total of 347 wins. He won a record 17th Gold Glove in 2007, surpassing the record held by Brooks Robinson. On May 10th of 2008, Greg won his 350th game. Also in 2008, he became the oldest pitcher to steal a base at 42. It was incidentally against the Braves. Greg was traded back to the Dodgers on April 19th for two players to be named later, or cash considerations by the Padres. His return to the Dodgers was unlike his debut, though, as he allowed 7 earned runs on 9 hits while taking a loss against the Phillies. Maddux pitched in 5,000 career innings against the San Francisco Giants on September 19th. On September 27th, in his final start of the season, he won his 355th game, moving him ahead of Roger Clemens into 8th place in all-time wins. Greg ranks 10th in career strikeouts with 3,371. His strikeout total is balanced against 999 walks. For the 2008 season, he posted an 8-13 record. His 1.4 walks per 9 innings pitched were the best in the major leagues. After the Dodgers won the National League West, Maddux moved to the bullpen after manager Joe Torre decided to go with a 3-man rotation. Maddux pitched 3 innings of relief during this series, which the Dodgers lost, allowing 2 runs. Maddux was noted for his ability to warm up quickly. He received his 18th Gold Glove Award in November of 2008, extending his own Major League record. 1 month later, Greg announced his retirement. On January 11th of 2010, Maddux was hired by the Chicago Cubs as an assistant to the general manager, Jim Hendry. In his return to Chicago, his focus was on developing pitcher styles and techniques throughout the organization, including minor league affiliates. For the 2012 season, Maddux left his position with the Cubs and joined the Texas Rangers organization, where his brother Mike was the pitching coach. He was announced as the pitching coach for the USA team in the 2013 World Baseball Classic. On February 2, 2016, he was hired by the Dodgers as a special assistant to the president of baseball operations, Andrew Friedman. On July 6, 2016, Greg was hired as an assistant baseball coach for the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. For 4 years, he served as the pitching coach. Greg's son, Chase, was a pitcher for the Rebels. On February 14th of 2023, Greg was hired as a special assistant for spring training by the Texas Rangers, joining his brother Mike, who became the team's new pitching coach. Greg relied on his command, composure, and guile to outwit hitters. Though his fastball touched 93 miles an hour in his early years, his velocity steadily declined throughout his career and was never his principal focus as a pitcher. By the end of his career, his fastball averaged less than 86 miles an hour. He was also noted for the late movement on his sinker, a two-seam fastball, which, combined with his control, made him known as an excellent ground ball pitcher. While Greg was not known for his strikeout totals, his total strikeouts have often been undersold because strikeout rate has been often measured per 9 innings rather than per batters faced. Maddux alternated his two-seam fastball with an excellent circle change. Though these served as primary pitches, he also threw a four-seam fastball, a cutter, a curveball, a slider, and a splitter. He was renowned for focusing on the outside corner. This approach was emphasized under former Atlanta Braves pitching coach Leo Mazzoni. He would begin by throwing strikes with his fastball down and away, and then expand the strike zone with his changeup, sometimes obtaining borderline strike calls from umpires simply on the strength of his reputation. In complement with this strategy, Greg popularized a tactic of throwing his two-seam fastball off the plate inside to left-handed hitters, only to have the ball break back over the inside corner for a strike. Maddux said of that pitch, "That was just my normal fastball that did that. I always had it." The pitch really started to work for me when I learned how to throw a cutter. It made that pitch more effective. In addition, his propensity for throwing strikes and avoiding walks kept his pitch counts low. On July 2nd, 1997, he won a game against the New York Yankees. The numbers, 9 innings, 3 hits, no walks, 8 strikeouts, 1 pickoff, 1 double play in 84 pitches, 2 hours and 9 minutes. Dodgers manager Fred Clare admired Maddux' pitching consistency, saying, "It's almost like a guy lining up 60 feet 6 inches putt. He's just so disciplined, so repetitive with his pitches." Speaking about Maddux's accuracy, Orel Hershiser once said, "This guy can throw a ball in a teacup." Baseball Hall of Famer Wade Boggs talked about facing Maddux. "It seems like he's inside your mind with you. When he knows you're not going to swing, he throws a straight one. He sees into the future. It's like he has a crystal ball hidden inside his glove." Maddux was also known for his intensely studying hitters in preparation for his starts. He would often watch hitters take their warm-up swings, read their body language to gauge their mentality. His teammate Tom Glavine said, "I think the hitters think he can go back and recall every pitch he has ever thrown. That's not the case, but I think he's probably better at remembering things than most people are. He's definitely better in the course of a game at making adjustments on a hitter based on what he's seen, whether it's one swing or a guy's last at bat." Maddux has been credited by many of his teammates with superior ability to outthink his opponents and anticipate results. Braves catcher Eddie Perez tells the story of Maddux intentionally allowing a home run to Astros' Jeff Bagwell in anticipation of facing Bagwell in the playoffs much later. Maddux felt Bagwell would instinctively be looking for the same pitch again, which Maddux would then refuse to throw. On another occasion, while sitting on the bench, Maddux once told his teammates, "Watch this. We might need to call an ambulance for this first base coach." The batter, Los Angeles Jose Hernandez, drove the next pitch into the chest of the Dodgers' first base coach. Maddux had noticed that Hernandez, who had been pitched inside by the Braves pitchers during the series, had shifted his batting stance slightly. On another occasion, a former teammate, outfielder Marquise Grissom, recalled in a game in 1996 when Maddux was having trouble spotting his fastball. Between innings, he told Grissom, "Gary Sheffield is coming up next inning. I'm going to throw him a slider and make him just miss it so he hits it to the warning track." The at-bat went as Maddux predicted. In the early 2000 season, Maddux was asked by sports writer Bob Nightingale what had been the most memorable at-bat of his pitching career. Maddux said it was striking out Dave Martinez to end a regular season game. Nightingale was surprised Maddux hadn't picked a postseason game or a more famous player. Maddux explained, "I remember that one. because he got a hit off me in the same situation, which was full count, bases loaded, 2 outs in the ninth, 7 years earlier. I told myself if I ever got in the same situation again, I'll pitch him differently. It took me 7 years, but I got him. Publicly, Maddux is dismissive of his reputation, saying, "People think I'm smart. You know what makes you smart? Locate your fastball down and away." That's what makes you smart. You talk to Sandy Koufax, Bob Gibson, Tom Seaver, they'll tell you the same thing. It's not your arm that makes you a great pitcher. It's that thing between both your ears we call a brain. To this day, Maddux maintains Koufax, Gibson, and Seaver are the 3 best pitchers of the live ball era. Informed by the Sporting News that he had been voted best pitcher of the 1990s, he replied, "It could have gone to Glavine or Smoltz just as easily, and each would have deserved it. They're both great pitchers." Maddux never walked more than 82 batters in a season during his career, averaging fewer than 2 walks per game. In 1997, Maddux allowed 20 walks in 232-plus innings for a .77 walks per 9. In 2001, he set the National League record by going 72 1/3 innings without giving up that walk. Maddux's low walk totals also kept his pitch counts down. 31 starts, Maddux threw 9 innings with 100 pitchers or less. 10 of those starts were under 90 pitches, including a 78-pitch complete game in 1997. In addition to his pitching skills, Maddux was also an excellent fielder, winning 18 Gold Gloves, the record for any position. Of those 18, Greg won 10 with the Braves, 5 with the Cubs, 2 with the Dodgers, and 1 with the Padres. He was also a good hitting pitcher, has a career batting average of 171, including 4 seasons where he hit over 200. He has 5 home runs with 84 RBIs. Greg pitched in 13 Division Series contests, 17 League Championship games, 5 World Series games. He has a 3.27 ERA in 198 postseason innings, including an outstanding 2.09 ERA in 32 2/3 World Series innings. He was chosen for the National League All-Star team 8 times. Greg won 20 games only twice in 92 and 93. However, he won 19 games 5 times, 18 games twice, and 16 in the strike-shortened 94 season. He won 4 ERA titles, 93, 94, 95, and 98, and led the National League in shutouts 5 times. Holds the Major League record for seasons leading his league in games started. He also holds the record for most seasons finishing in the top 10 in the league in wins, 18. In his 2009 book, The Annual Baseball Goldmine, baseball statistics guru Bill James found Maddux to be far and away the most underrated player in baseball history. The methodology for this included the fact that though Maddux only won 20 games twice, he won 19 games 5 times. He also had only 1 season of 200 or more strikeouts, but had seasons of 199, 198, 197, respectively, which diminished his reputation as a strikeout pitcher. In addition to that, James also argued that although he had 18 seasons of 200 or more innings pitched, he also had 3 seasons of 199 1/3, 198, and 194 innings pitched. In 1999, Greg ranked 39th on the Sporting News list of the 100 greatest baseball pitchers, the highest-ranking pitcher then active. He was also nominated as a finalist for the Major League Baseball All-Century team. The Cubs retired jersey number 31 on May 3rd of 2009 in honor of both Greg Maddux and Fergie Jenkins. The Braves retired Maddux number 31 on July 17th of 2009. I get asked all the time, was he the best pitcher I ever saw? Was he the smartest pitcher I ever saw? the most competitive pitcher I ever saw, the best teammate I ever saw? And the answer is yes to all of those, said Braves manager Bobby Cox at the banquet to induct Greg Maddux into the Atlanta Braves Hall of Fame, the Omni Hotel in Atlanta, July 17th, 2009. On January 8th, 2014, Greg was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. He later announced that he would not have a team logo on his plaque, citing the history with the Braves and the Cubs. It's impossible for me to choose one of those teams, as the fan of both clubs in each of those cities were so wonderful, said Greg Maddux. That is the story of Greg Maddux. There are a few little side notes about Greg that personally I really like, and I wanted to share those here. Greg faced 20,421 batters. Of those, 310 saw a 3-0 count. So of 20,421 batters faced, only 310 of them saw a 3-0 count. But 177 of those were intentional walks. Greg once told a hitter who was trying to steal his signs, he said, "No need to steal the sign. I'll tell you what I'm going to throw. It's an 89-mile-per-hour sinker, and you won't even swing at it." Greg's career walk per nine is 1.8. In 1992 and 1994, he had a walk per nine of 0.2. In 95 and 97, it was 0.3. Greg only made 53 errors in 23 seasons. His splits, left and right, were the same. He got lefties out and righties out. He walked nobody in 236 of his starts. His Achilles heel was Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn dominated Greg. Gwynn hit .415 against him in 107 plate appearances. Greg quotes as saying, "Sometimes hitters can pick up differences in spin. They can identify pitches if there are different release points. But if a pitcher can change speeds, every hitter is helpless, limited by human vision, except for that expletive Tony Gwynn." Guys, I hope you enjoyed the Greg Maddux podcast. I certainly did. I needed to do justice to him, and I think maybe I have. Thanks for joining me here on Cubs 24/7. If you like the podcast style and you would like me to maybe focus on others and do some more of this particular genre, I'd be happy to do that. Just let me know. Thanks for joining us on Cubs 24/7, where Randy talks Cubs. Go Cubs, go.